Hello and welcome to Box, the football talk show brought to you by Sportology TV with myself, Ali Drew. So we have finally reached the end of 2020. It has been a crazy year. But aside from the craziness, it is the year that we launched Sportology TV, and we have been lucky enough to be joined on Box to Box by some incredible guests. They include former players, YouTubers, pundits, people from the football media, and even fans joining us on the show. But every former player that came on the show, we asked them one common question: who was the greatest player that they ever played alongside? And here are some of the responses we got.
Mark, before you go, I just want to ask you one final question. You played with a lot of great players. You played with a lot of great players in your career.
Yeah.
Name me that one player that stood out for you that you played with.
Ryan Giggs, no doubt about it. And I am biased because, like I said to you, I was a youngster at Manchester United from 1988 to 91, from the age of 16 to 19. And I'll never forget, it was at the old training ground, The Cliff. And I don't know if there was a few of us there. Either we were training or maybe I was injured or whatever. And I'll never forget, Ryan had come down to play a schoolboy game. I think it might have been for Salford Boys or maybe St. or whatever, whoever he was playing for anyway. And I'll never forget Sir Alex that time coming around saying, just take a look at this young boy. He's only 15, who's playing on the left-hand side for this team, whoever he was playing. And you know, when the boss says that, you go, okay, well, we start watching through the window. And I don't know, for me, I was like a moment where you sort of thought, well, maybe this was like, first time seeing Jack Nicklaus hit the golf ball, or Michael Jordan play basketball, or say Brian Lara pick up a cricket bat, or Muhammad Ali box. You could tell, you just tell, and his balance and his poise and his athleticism was just absolutely amazing. There was others who were absolutely fantastic players. I mentioned one in Frank Lampard, Gianfranco Zola, Paul McGrath, Dwight York. All players like this, and Paul Scholes. There were so many, but Ryan Giggs for me was definitely number one.
You did play alongside a lot of good players, but I want to know who you think the best player you ever played alongside was.
I reckon you could both guess. I mean, Steven Gerrard was an unbelievable player. I mean, you guys got to see him on the pitch. I got to train with him, and that was what made him the best, because every day at training he wanted to be the best player at training. If it was horrible weather, if he felt as though he had a cold, it didn't matter. He wanted to be the best player every single day. So there's no excuse for the likes of myself, other players in the squad, because Steven Gerrard, he's the best player in the match day, but he's also the best player every day in training. Whether he's playing right back, centre mid, centre forward, you can play him anywhere and he would be the best player. So it was a joy to train with him, to play with him, to have breakfast with him, dinners with him, share a room with him. This guy was a great player of our generation. So honoured to have shared a pitch with Stevie.
At club, or you mean for up?
Wherever.
So for me, I've said it before. Steven Gerrard, when I went into and trained with England, he was the one player that stood out for me. His aura, just the way that he did things, the way he would play balls in training was like I mean, if you understand football and you train and you play every day, the things that he was doing every single time, every ball that he was playing and clipping, the normal player that you play with in the Premier League would probably do it 4 times out of 10. He was doing it every single time in every single practice. He was the one player for me that really made me think, wow, you are something special. Stevie G.
Before we let you go, I see behind you, you've got number 14, Arsenal. Is that Arsenal? Is that Henry?
Yes, Henry, Torres, Ferdinand. Yeah, there's a few. Bergkamp, yes. Terry, Benayoun. There's a few. There's plenty behind the sofa as well. So
actually, let me ask you then. You played not in the same team, but you played across these fantastic names that you've got in your room. Which is the one player when you were on the pitch and they played against you, like, wow, this guy is fantastic. This guy's world class.
Stevie G, he killed me in the FA Cup final, but another one would be Paul Scholes. I mean, I played in against him, and he would be not that holding midfielder, that player that would come and get it off the back four and start things off. And very often I would be very close to him and just behind him, almost like just a player cam, directly behind him and seeing what he's seeing and the balls that he would play. I mean, I'll give you an instance. We played at Fulham one year, and I think there was Clint Dempsey and Paul Konchesky was the fullback, and I was stood behind Paul Scholes, and all game, he was just pinging balls like shoulder height, but like between the players and making it like just curling it between them, but smashing it really, really hard to I think it was Ronaldo's feet or Ronaldo's chest constantly all game, and then he'd ping it out to Giggs the other side. And I remember thinking, like, just no one can get near him. He just looked like it was just the most unbelievable display, really, and just in awe, really. I remember Rio Ferdinand behind me sort of leave it alone, Scholesy. Do you know what I mean? Like, just, and I was like, but what a fantastic player Paul Scholes is, yeah.
England-wise, I'd have to say either Steven Gerrard or Wayne Rooney. Them two were head and shoulders probably above the rest. But on a day-to-day basis, club football, Luka Modric by some distance.
Okay.
Yeah, he was it was one of them where we only saw really the best of him towards the end at Spurs, but it was one of them when we was in the change room when he first walked in and he was training with him for the very first session. We all were like, wow! Like after training, who's this guy? Because he was that good, and it's no surprise that he went on to, obviously, it was a surprise that he won the Ballon d'Or with Messi and Ronaldo about, but it's no surprise about him being one of the very, very best players in the world, because we knew from the very first training session that he wasn't going to be at Spurs for long.
When I went away with England, I'd say Paul Scholes by far. But every day working with him, I'd say Steven Gerrard. Just we know how good he is and was, but to see his standards he set for himself, for the team, and for the club, I think he'd be the best one that I played for, without a shadow of a doubt.
You know, you say that. We spoke to Bobby. Bobby said with Steven Gerrard was the best player he played alongside with England. But I asked him, who's the best player you've shared a pitch with? So any one of your opposition. And you said Paul Scholes. He goes that there was a game where you guys played Fulham. And he goes that you with the left back, Clint Morrison was there, and he was pinging balls to Ronaldo all day. And he goes, I remember Paul Scholes is doing it. Do you have memories of Scholes doing that sort of stuff?
Yeah, but, you know, when you play likes of Ronaldo and you've got Nani and Giggs and Scholes picks up the ball, there's only one thing. We knew he could pass, he could play, and he was probably the best footballer that I've seen and been around. And it was, as a fullback for me, it wasn't nice him picking up the ball, because you knew, even though you know where it's going to go, you can't stop it, because he's that talented. He put it on a sixpence for Ronaldo, Van Nistelrooy, Rooney, whoever it was. He had the best players to play with, so he was up there with the best, yeah.
In any team, doesn't have to Liverpool, can be any.
Yeah, I mean, I've played with obviously some, world-class players, some fantastic characters. I think, if you just to go through a few, if you think of, Paul McGrath, with his problems, and then to put his performances up, to be involved in 94 against Italy and watch Paul's performance, and, watch Franco Baresi ask for Paul's shirt after the game was I can't believe no one caught it on camera, to be honest. It was such an amazing moment. But I managed to see it with my own eyes and be 10 foot away from it. It was, it was quite emotional to see that. Paul was an exceptional, unbelievable player. But if I had to pick one who I used to look at and just think, the ultimate player can do everything for a player in that position, would be Robbie Fowler. I used to look at him in the dressing room and think, we've got a chance today. If he's on fire today, we're going to win the game. He was a top player. But I always kind of judge a player when I get asked that question as well, not just by his performances on the pitch, but his character off it. Robbie trained really hard. He was a great professional, always having a laugh and a joke in the dressing room. When we were down, he'd lift us up. And he's just a great fella and a really good friend of mine now. We're really close now. But as a footballer, I think there was no better striker in his generation than Robbie Fowler. Left foot, right foot, header, all kinds of goals, outside the box, inside the box. He could do the lot.
I'd have to say Gerrard. I think when you think of his quality, I'd be interested to see how many guests you've had on and you've said the same thing.
A few have, a few.
Yeah, and another player as well who was very, very close to it, and I wish I'd have played with him sort of 5-6 years earlier, was Two-Guy at Blackburn. Such a phenomenal talent, one of the best players that I've played with, and again, I caught him towards the latter end of his career, but such a phenomenal player. But yeah, Gerrard was the one. I think when you played with him, you just knew the quality that he possessed. And I remember going away with England and being in a car, me and Jamie Carragher, and Carragher just turned around and said, "You haven't seen him at his best yet." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, when he goes to England, it's almost like I want to prove to everyone at England that I'm the best here as well." And he said he goes up another 5 or 10%. And I was thinking, he hasn't got another 5 or 10%. He's unbelievable as it is. And he did. He went up another 5 or 10% at England. And it was phenomenal to watch. And the mentality of the guy was out of this world.
Yeah.
Paul Scholes.
He's a popular one.
Yeah, no, he's a genius. He's a genius. You always know as a striker, if he's playing in behind you, I remember the first time I ever played, and I was a youngster at United, and he wouldn't remember it. He'd just been going through the motions. But I remember stepping on the pitch with him, with David Beckham, Roy Keane, and Ryan Giggs, and I remember thinking, I can run anywhere. I can do whatever I want. They'll find me. The quality is that high, and he's just got that thing that if you step on a pitch with him, we played in a charity game even 2 years ago, and I just enjoy playing football with him. I'd play on the street till it was dark, just because he's exceptional. So, yeah, he's got a love for the game, a humility, a fire in his belly no matter where he's playing, but his vision, his application to the game, and just watching him is a joy. So to share the pitch with him is, something that I hold in high regard. And he's a top guy to boot as well. So, yeah, Paul Scholes without a shadow of a doubt.
You know what?
Yeah, you do know the answer. It's an easy one, isn't it? It's Stevie's the best.
Yeah.
Just a remarkable player, yeah. He's, funnily enough, actually, but more interestingly, probably the best trainers I ever trained with wasn't the best players.
Okay.
The best trainers was Jamie Carragher, Robbie Keane, Clint Dempsey. Clint Dempsey probably topping all of them. But Stevie was the best player. Probably, I tell you, one of the most talented players I ever played with that you wouldn't really probably think is Moussa Dembele.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What a player. Anybody who plays with Moussa, I mean, all the Tottenham lads were said the same when you speak to them. He was a sensational player. And actually, Tottenham never replaced him since he's gone.
Yeah. Also, then the second question is, sharing a pitch with a player, which is the best player you've shared a pitch with? Played against someone in another.
It's a hard one for people to admit this.
I've been lucky, I one-off game against Zidane was an experience I'll never forget. It was like man. He was playing on his own. He was like playing with a bunch of little boys, like throwing us off. And Rivaldo was a good one. Probably the player that the player that put me up the most and made me feel inadequate and made me feel inferior and like a failure was Paul Scholes a couple of times. I had a couple of games against him where I come off the pitch thinking, not sure what I don't know what to do. Wow. At half time when you're shaking your head to yourself, I can't get near him. And when you do try and get near him and smash him, he'll pop it round corners. And when he was at it, Scholesy, he was probably the hardest one I come up against.
Paul Konchesky said the same thing. He said the same thing. He said that we knew.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he said because he was mocking Ronaldo. He said, "I knew the ball was going to come. I knew the ball was going to come, but it was so clinical that I would never get to it." He goes,
I remember the game he's talking about. He got rinsed. Yeah.
Bobby Zamora said it as well. He said it as well.
So, yeah.
What, Scholesy?
Yeah. Do you know, Paul Scholes has been a popular one.
I think what I would say is, and it's fascinating because everyone's got different views, but I mean, I played against Stevie a couple of times, but not as often as Scholes because I was obviously at Liverpool quite a long time. If you said to me now, who would you not want to play against? I'd say Stevie. Stevie's the one I'd not want to play against. I'd still rather go against Scholes than Stevie. because Stevie can outthink you, outfight you, outrun you, outjump you. Stevie's got everything as a midfielder. There's not an area you can't beat him up here, and you can't beat him physically. So even those goals he gave me the most problems, I'd still rather not play against Stevie.
You'd rather have Stevie?
Now that you've mentioned England, then I'd have to change it. So for me, it's got to be David Beckham. I mean, I was lucky to play with him once for England, and incredible. Even in training, I've never seen anyone like it. Every shot he'd done in training was like a free kick during a practice game or a six-a-side. It was like whip, top corner, bottom corner. I've never seen a keeper save one of his shots in training. I've never seen anything like it for goal scoring and passing. So for me, definitely David Beckham. It was unbelievable.
Gabby, what about the best player you've shared a pitch with? Maybe somebody in the opposition team.
Because I really like Arsenal, I've got to go down to Thierry Henry.
Okay.
I played against him when he returned. Actually played against him at Highbury in one of I think it was my first season in the Villa team, 2006. It was the last season at Highbury, and I played against him. I was just starstruck running around that pitch like, wow, my idol. And then luckily I didn't have the confidence then to ask him for his shirt. But luckily he come back, didn't he, to Arsenal, and he wore number 12, and I played against him again. And I got his shirt that game. So I've got that in my house framed. I actually wore it during lockdown, and I was getting a lot of stick off Villa fans for wearing it. But he was just unbelievable. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. He's definitely, for me, the best player to ever play in the Premier League.
Oh, that's difficult. Chelsea, I mean, there's a list at Chelsea. Makalele's, Essie's, Ballack's, John Terry's. Lampsey was superb. Frank Lampard, I've never seen someone train as professional as him. Didier Drogba, I mean, if you're talking match winners, Didier, you wouldn't really get a lot of change out of him Monday to Friday in training, but come game day, when he said, listen, boys, give me the ball and I'll win this game for you, he was going to do that. I'd probably put Didier up there or Moussa Dembele actually at Fulham. Moussa was frightening. Moussa was so good, so good. And even when he went to Spurs, you look at all the things that previous players have done, previous teammates, and they say best player in the squad. A lot of them Spurs players would have said Moussa as well.
Even Danny Murphy that we spoke to a couple of weeks ago, he said Moussa Dembele as well.
Yeah, Moussa. Honestly, I remember when I first went to Fulham and I trained with Moussa. He come back from injury. I just signed and I trained on a Saturday because the team had an FA Cup game and I wasn't registered to play. And I'd never heard of Moussa. And he trained and I come off and we had to go to watch the first team after. And I got on the phone to Bobby Zamora, who was on the way to the game. And I was like, Bobs, who is this Moussa Dembele? I was like, he's unbelievable. And he was like, mate, tell me about him. Come from AZ Alkmaar. So I literally, on the way to the stadium, I typed in his name. And there was clips of him on YouTube of his goals at AZ Alkmaar, and I was like, honestly, it's still got to be on YouTube now. If you type his name in and watch his clips, the goals that he scored out there was just outrageous. He was just so good. Defensively, defending so strong, but going forward with the ball, he used to just front people up like basketball players do. Would just go, come then, what way do you want to go? And just go bang and just gone. So Moussa would be up there as well. But a player for me that never really fulfilled his potential, his maximum potential. Maybe that might have been injuries, I'm not too sure, but a top player.
This is a tough one because I've got some good ones. I'm gonna have. Can I name two?
You can.
Give me Thierry Henry.
Okay.
And Steven Gerrard.
Steven Gerrard's very popular. A lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people say him.
Yes, Stevie G and Thierry.
All right, let me ask you another question then. Which player have you played against and thought, this guy's a phenomenal player?
Well, that's quite easy. Lionel Messi. Yeah, we got beat 6-1 as well. And he scored a hat-trick just to top it off. I mean, cheers. Yeah, so Lionel Messi. And obviously I played against Ronaldo, but I think, Messi with that hat-trick stood out for me.
Interesting.
It's a hard question.
Played with?
Yeah, start off with. Yeah, played alongside. So in either an international team, for Wales or your clubs.
Yeah. So I'd have to pick two players on this because I played with Ryan Giggs, and I think, as a player, everybody respects everything that he's done in the game. He's won everything, and he was an unbelievable player. And I always say he's one of the players the best players I played with. And also, I have to put Gareth Bale into there as well. I think those two, Gareth Bale and Ryan Giggs, are the best players I played with. Different reasons, but the level and the consistency of the levels was just so high. Ryan Giggs could also influence you in different ways, just, on the pitch, just playing with him in the presence of. And I think I always tell people this is there was times where I was getting better just because he was on my team, and people say, oh, how does that happen? And like, how, it's because your natural level now goes up. You don't know this maybe till after, but your level of, oh, right, I need to now raise the level because I'm playing with him. He expects a certain level. He expects the highest level. He can do it also. And there was moments where I raised but I love that also. I love that I had to raise my level, and at times it's, I could then be on that wavelength, and that's a great wavelength. Trust me, it's when somebody just got this different level, and sometimes all you have to do is just make a movement and the ball arrives, and you're like, sometimes you have to take a moment just to appreciate that. And you're making a movement, you're going to score a goal, and he's going to deliver that exactly where you want it. That's what it was like. And Gareth Bale was the same. And sometimes Gareth Bale, and the things that he could do is he could do certain things that at the highest speed, at the full crazy lightning speed, and produce quality. And that's very rare. Sometimes, people are quick, and, sometimes they can do something, sometimes, not all the time. With Bailey, and he was great at such a high level of consistency at the fastest speed. And that was impressive. And at times he could just go on dribbles, and you're like, wow, like he could literally take everybody on at times. So, but he was great. So I'll say those two.
Bale, I would say Gareth Bale is the best player I've played with. I've obviously played with Ryan Giggs as well. He is my hero, but I think from the time I've been in the Welsh squad and growing up with Bale, I think he's won 4 Champions Leagues, and I don't feel that he gets the benefit, the applause that he deserves, really.
I hope you enjoyed that compilation of some of the greatest players that our guests played alongside. But guys, we have some incredible stuff lined up for 2021. Some huge guests that are going to be coming on, some new ideas for shows. So please keep supporting the channel. We really appreciate you. Subscribe, leave some comments, like our videos, share, do what you can so we can keep growing and bringing you great content. But thank you so much for your support in 2020, and we'll see you next year. Bye.